Warning. This video discusses gang stalking, handlers, secret societies, and Monarch Programming. All content is shared for informational and educational purposes only. I frequently use the word allegedly and point out that just because someone exhibits certain behaviors, it does not automatically mean they are a handler or that you are a victim of Monarch Programming. These are research-based observations and personal insights, not verified facts, professional advice, or absolute truth. Viewer discretion is advised.
Have you ever felt like certain people entered your life just to steer the direction? If so, this video is for you. In my last video about handlers, we talked about Monarch Programming, what a handler is, and the signs that you might have one in your life. Today, we're going to expand on that list and we're going to jump right into it. So let's get started. The first sign that someone might be a handler is if they're in a position of power. So if you work in the military, an intelligence agency, or you're an influencer or entertainer, it's likely that you have someone above you who's acting as a mentor or maybe even a friend. When we're in positions of influence, it's more likely that we're a target for a handler or someone to guide the narrative, especially because these organizations are involved with the government and these positions have the ability to influence the masses. And when it comes to positions in Hollywood or influencers that have millions of followers, you often don't get that far unless someone is controlling the narrative. How many times have you been shadow banned from sharing the truth? The second sign of a handler is early childhood grooming or the GATE program. If you were in the GATE program or any kind of special program for children, it's likely that you were spotted from a young age and that the people in your life during that time were likely there for a reason to shape your beliefs and your directions in life. This might be especially true if you ended up working for one of the organizations I mentioned earlier, like the military, a central intelligence agency, or if you ended up being an artist, influencer, or entertainer. Art shapes culture. So it's likely that if you were groomed in childhood to hold one of these positions in society, you were an early target. The third sign of a handler is if someone entered your life when you were in a vulnerable state. For example, you may have been suffering from an addiction, an illness, a breakup, a loss of someone close to you. This is the perfect time for someone to infiltrate. When you're feeling vulnerable and when it's easy to keep you locked in a state of trauma. Another way to tell if someone may be a handler is if they push substances on you. For example, they always have a joint waiting for you, or they're always pouring you a drink. This is a way to keep you locked in lower states of consciousness and to make you easier to hypnotize or influence. The fourth sign that someone might be a handler is if they're mirroring you. For example, if you meet a person who knows everything about you and has everything in common with you, this can be a sign of NLP, especially if they're mirroring your body language, expressions, and general attitudes. Another sign that someone might be a handler is if they use manipulation tactics from books like The 48 Laws of Power, for example. And a huge telltale sign that someone might be a handler is if you're watching them manipulate people around you, or if they're encouraging you to also manipulate others. They may frame it as influencing someone or gently guiding them, but at the end of the day, manipulation is manipulation, especially if you're robbing somebody's ability to be a free thinker. The fifth sign that someone might be a handler is if they let you in on some kind of secret. With these types of people, they like to maintain an air of mystery and authority, and everyone knows how enticing a secret can be. They may tempt you with sharing information from some kind of secret society or elite organization and make you feel special or chosen in some way, like you know something that the general masses don't. This is another way to keep you reliant on them for guidance and answers, and to isolate you from other people by making you feel different, unique, or special. The sixth sign that someone might be a handler is if they often offer you conditional favors. In other words, They're always trying to help you, whether that's help you be seen, get a better position at work, offer you more money, but it's under the condition that you follow their narrative or that you comply with their demands. The second you go against the script is the second those favors go away. This can also look like sexual harassment in the workplace or intimate favors in the entertainment industry. In other words, if you don't do something special for someone, you're not going to get the role. The seventh sign that someone might be a handler is if they use triangulation and isolation. 3 seems to be the perfect number in these kinds of scenarios. For example, if you have a common enemy, or if that person is somehow the middleman between you and someone else. Being the middleman is the perfect opportunity for someone to control the narrative. When 3 people are involved, it's also easier to make someone go along with your narrative if they don't want to feel left out. So if someone is trying to get you to join something, for example, and they bring another person into it, or says something like, well, so-and-so thinks this, or so-and-so says that. It's a manipulation tactic to make you feel left out and want to be a part of what they're doing. Another example of triangulation is if someone is trying to gaslight you into believing that you did something wrong. So they bring up another person either in conversation or tells the other person about what you did, or tells you about what the other person thinks about what you did. Or they compare you to another person. So in other words, it's never just about you and this other person. They're always comparing you to someone, always bringing someone else in there for advice, or they're the middleman to communicate to that other person and thus controlling the information that you actually hear. Another great way to build intimacy is if you have a common enemy. For example, you just broke up with somebody who's toxic, and they use that as an in to gain your trust and make you feel like you have something in common. The 8th sign that someone is a handler is that they're very focused on their image and the way that people perceive them. They may also be very controlling about your image and give you a lot of direction for how they want you to be perceived by others. This person might wear designer sunglasses to appear like they have more money than they do. They may wear designer suits to make themselves appear more important. They may drive a nice car to make themselves appear rich. They may even scold you for being honest about something if it doesn't align with their narrative. The 9th sign that someone might be a handler is if they have some kind of mysterious funding or mysterious backer. Whatever their purpose is, they always have someone to back it up financially, especially if it involves other people or organized events that shape the public's perception. Mystery in general is a red flag, especially if they're disappearing at odd hours, like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., to do things with their family on a regular basis. And especially if it's on particular astrological events and dates, like new moons, full moons, or other important holidays. These can often be signs that someone is involved in occult magic, and they're using you as part of their ritual. The 10th sign that someone might be a handler is that they provide influence disguised as mentorship. Perhaps they enter your life as a business coach, a mentor, a manager, a producer, and they always have ideas about what would be great for your career, oftentimes before you can even think up something yourself. This may feel flattering at first, but if there starts to be a pattern, especially involving any of the other things I mentioned, then this is an absolute red flag that someone is in your life to influence your life's direction. And the 11th sign that someone might be a handler is if they're overly involved in your love life. Are they prying for intimate details, telling you top secret information about your lover, or playing matchmaker in some way? Maybe they're even organizing meetups and hookups. The more details you share, the more power they have over you if you end up not working with them. Secret societies often use details from our love life to bribe or blackmail people. So be mindful of who you talk about your love life with and be vigilant about who's prying for details. I hope you learned a lot from this video today about signs of a potential handler. And just another disclaimer, just because someone has some of these signs doesn't automatically put them in the category of some kind of handler, but it's important to be aware of some of the tactics that people use to influence and control your life's narrative. Handler or not, awareness is what helps us break programming. And if you feel like you noticed any of these signs, I encourage you to check out some of my tools for empowerment. The most important thing we can do, in my opinion, is develop our own intuition. So I've created an ESP development and remote viewing mastery course so you can learn how to trust yourself. I also teach astrology, human design, and tarot to help you recognize the emotional patterns in your life and show you where you may be sensitive to conditioning. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, the link is in my description. You can also message me on Instagram or TikTok at Statements by Alex. And last but not least, I've created an October moon journal for you so you can recognize your personal astrology patterns when it comes to the moon and the moon cycles. It also includes journal prompts to help you recognize patterns that are consistently coming up so you can better plan your schedule. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you want me to make more videos on this topic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
I'll meet you in the end.